Dear students, fascinating topic before you. Development as progress over time. By observing this picture, you can understand the value of education. Education is about becoming rich. Education is about finding your soul. What does education mean to me? Then what does education mean to you? It's a question before you. Most of the times we do think of some countries are ahead of others in terms of human development indicators. Similarly, some states have better indicators of human development. Through within a state, there may be some variations. Some districts may be more advanced than others. Remember, comparison and ranks have little use by itself. They are only useful if these indicators can make us think in meaningful ways as why are some of the countries are behind, some of the districts are behind. Low performance on any one of the human development indicators is a sign that certain aspect of people's life needs require more attention. Alternatively, we could ask why are some ahead of others? Say, why are many more children in Himachal Pradesh going to school on an average than in other states? That is the question given in the particular lesson. To answer this, we need to understand the criteria, the schooling revolution in Himachal Pradesh. It has some interesting insights to offer, particularly how so many factors need to come together to make some change possible in terms of development. It is indeed a complex phenomenon. At the same time, Indian independence, like most other states in India, Himachal Pradesh had very low levels of education. Being a hilly region with low density of population in many villages, spread of schools, particularly to the rural areas, appeared as a big challenge. However, both the government of Himachal Pradesh and the people of the state were keen on education. How to translate this aspiration to reality for all the children then? The government started schools and made sure that education was largely free or costs very little for parents in order to afford. Further, it tried to ensure that these schools had at least the minimum facilities of teachers, classrooms, sanitation facilities, drinking water too. As the years went by, these facilities were improved and expanded. More schools were opened and teachers were appointed so that many more children could study very easily. Of course, in order to open schools and run these well, the government had to spend certain amount of money. Among the Indian states, Himachal Pradesh has the distinction of one of the highest spending from the government budget on education of each child. So when they have taken up this project, Most of the parents also agreed. In year 2005, the average spending on education by the government in Indian state was 1049 per child. Himachal Pradesh was spending 2005 per child. On an average, actually, we have studied in order to measure per capita income. How can we distinguish the more developed countries, middle level developed countries, and low developed countries based on the per capita income? How can we calculate per capita income? Already I gave you analysis in order to calculate the per capita income. Total income within the country divided by, we can divide it by total population. Thus we can ensure the per capita income of that particular country. The high priority on education paid off. In an intensive survey on schooling done in 1996 and repeated in 2006, the surveyors have noted in many parts of the country, girls' education is still given less priority by parents compared to boys' education. Why so? While girls may study for a few classes, they may not complete their schooling. A welcome trend in Himachal Pradesh is the lower gender bias. Himachali parents have ambitious educational goals for their girls, just as for their boys. In the 13 to 18 age group, a very high percentage of girls are completing 8th class and moving to secondary classes. This doesn't mean there are no differences in the status of men and women, but the differences are less compared to many other regions, particularly North Indian states. Let us have information at a glance. Already we discussed related to Kudankulam nuclear power project, the controversial issue because of environmentalists, scientists, and also the people in Tamil Nadu, which is located in Tirunelveli district. Now, focus on per capita income, national income. First, we need to measure national income, dividing with population of the year within a country. Then what do you mean by infant mortality rate? Infant mortality rate. Out of 1,000 live children born, the number of children who die within 1 year. This term is measured so that we can understand how many are died, how many are born and safe. Then what do you mean by literacy rate or illiterate person, literate person? Literate person, educated person who knows how to read and write. The percentage of literate population in the 7 and above age group, 7 years and above, we can consider them as literates. Then what about life expectancy at birth? Average expected length of life of a person at the time of birth. Average expected length of life of a person at the time of birth. What do you mean by the term average years of schooling? Average number of years of education received by people of age 25 years and also above. Expected years of schooling Number of years of schooling that a child of school entrances can expect to receive given the present enrollment rates. Let us come back to child mortality. Child dying within a few years of birth. Schooling revolution which took place in Himachal Pradesh. This is the information at a glance which we have covered so far. Here is a question for you to analyze. What is the per capita income of Himachal Pradesh? The per capita income of Himachal Pradesh in 2012 is 74,000 rupees. Higher income can make it easier for parents to send their children to school. If the incomes are meager, very less, then parents cannot spend money on education of children. You are studying in private schools. Your parents are able to afford. So you are getting qualitative education with optimum results. Then focus on fourth point here. Then children ought to supplement with their labor to run the family. If higher incomes are there for family, these can be avoided. Himachal Pradesh had very low levels of education at the time of independence. Being a hilly region with low density of population in many villages, it spread of a very big challenge. So it was very much necessary for government to run schools in Himachal Pradesh. Let us have focus on what is the relationship between women's work outside their homes and gender bias. There exists positive impact and also negative impact for every activity. There exists advantages as well as disadvantages too. Positive effects. They have economic independence. There is no harassment at workplace. Develops self-confidence. Low wages in comparison to males. Have greater say in household decisions. We have already heard under negative effects domestic violence prevails. Domestic violence is nothing but the abuse of women mentally, physically, emotionally, torturing them. It doesn't make the good relationship within a family. This was earlier too much, but now there exist cases against in-laws as well as husbands in order to overcome this problem. Even few women are also cruel. We cannot say there exists gender bias in few places. It depends on anger management again. So when we treat men and women as equal without any partiality, then there exists no bias. If equality prevails, there is no bias. If there exists partiality, ultimately we treat one person as superior, the other person as inferior. This leads to partiality, gender bias, thereafter domestic violence. I think you are able to clarify this. Then what about the positive impact under gender bias related to women's work? The importance in social as well as political arena prevails. So when we treat men and women as equal, then there exists no partiality, as well as the well-developed country can exist. This is what we require in the society. In the society, in order to assure equality, every individual should focus. It is not the responsibility of Prime Minister, it is not the responsibility of Chief Minister, it is the entire responsibility of every individual in a family, so that there exists equality in the society.